Thanks for staying. Welcome back. My government has banned indefinitely the construction of new petrol and LPG retail stations across the country. The ban, which takes immediate effect, is part of wide-ranging reforms agreed by Cabinet yesterday towards finding a lasting solution to the frequent gas explosions around the country. Government is also to roll out a cylinder recirculation model for LPG distribution within a year. Details of these in this report.
According to the statement signed by the Information Minister Mustafa Hamid, President Akufo-Addo also directed the immediate inspection of all gas stations and the vigorous enforcement of existing regulations by the National Petroleum Authority. Also is the review of the current licensing regime to ensure that only those with demonstrable capacity engage in the LPG distribution business, coupled with the institution of mandatory training and certification of the staff of regulators, oil marketing companies OMCs, and LPG marketing companies to ensure the safe handling of LPG. The President also wants a review of safety protocols along the entire value chain through the combined efforts of the Environmental Protection Agency EPA and the National Petroleum Authority NPA, among other stakeholder institutions, as well as the recruitment of 200 safety auditors by the NPA to join the staff of the Factories Inspectorates Department to carry out regular checks at stations to ensure full compliance with safety standards and practices. In addition is the immediate incorporation of standards and guidelines developed by the Ghana Standards Authority on the handling, storage and distribution of LPG and other petroleum products to strengthen the enforcement regime, whilst the fire service and the police service expedites actions on ongoing investigations, which will see any operator or regulatory official found culpable facing the full rigors of the law. A task force is also to be deployed within 30 days to assess the risk that the current LPG infrastructure poses to public health and safety. High-risk stations are to be immediately closed down without regard to any political or special interests, while low-risk stations are to be designated for the supply of gas for vehicles with improved safety standards.
The World Bank says its new support for Ghana and other developing countries in Africa in the coming years will now focus on human capital. According to the bank, there have been concerns that previous support mechanisms have not touched on areas that can really help to reduce poverty. Speaking at a news conference at the sidelines of the IMF World Bank meetings in Washington, D.C., Kim Yong-jim said they want to ensure the people factor is not lost in the support for Ghana and other countries.
Investing in people is important, and then looking at innovative ways of moving capital quickly and efficiently to people who are going to start promising businesses is probably a major direction that we have to go. Right now, it's still pretty slow and pretty difficult because we're always working. We have to work with financial intermediaries, which makes things much more difficult for us. Right. If you look at the top 25% of countries that have improved human capital over the last 25 years, and you compare them to the bottom 25% of countries that have not improved human capital so well over the last 25 years, the difference in economic growth is as high as 1.25% of GDP per year. Right? So when we saw this data, the economists, the chief economist Paul Romer and others, we were quite surprised because these are profound connections of improving human capital and economic growth. So we felt that it was simply our responsibility to reveal that to our member countries, and so we're working over the next year on coming up with a ranking. And the ranking will look at two things. One part of the ranking will look at the stock of human capital. So, we talk about stock and flow. So it's not just what you have now, but what your income is, what the flow of new human capital is like. So we're going to look both at what is the existing stock of human capital and look at the flow, meaning how quickly are countries improving their human capital. Because what will happen is if young people are stunted as children, as infants, and then don't get the education they need, they're going to find themselves living in an economy where they just can't compete. And that is going to be, I worry, a source of instability, conflict, violence going forward. So we've got to move on this very quickly, and so this is why we're so committed to putting this project together, which will include rankings of both stock and flow of human capital.
Still in Washington, D.C., Ghana and international development partners like the World Bank and Iceland have initiated plans to collaborate in protecting and improving the local fisheries subsector. Minister for Planning, Professor Jambafo, has been leading efforts at securing the requisite investment partnerships at the sidelines of the ongoing IMF World Bank meetings. Iceland and the World Bank have a number of interventions aimed at improving aqua and marine culture in various parts of the world. The requested partnership will offer support to the University of Ghana, the University of Cape Coast, and the Fisheries Ministry in various ways to boost the fisheries sector. Professor Jambafo has been throwing more light on this partnership in an interview with Joy Business.
We had a chance to talk to the Minister for Fisheries. She told us what their major areas of interest are. And the first area that she mentioned was the area of aquaculture. But in aquaculture, there is the marine culture and then the aquaculture, which is usually on land, and that is where their focus is on the marine culture. And that's where they don't have a lot of technology in. So they want collaboration in that area to enable us to improve our ability to fish, to do this fishing, regulated fishing in the sea, just as you do it on land, where you dig a hole and then put some water in and all. This one, I think, usually is the cage that they put in the sea, and then so that is an area that they are interested in for the collaboration. Then the second area is in marine management, and in marine management, what he meant was that gear development, that is small scale fishing, that will be environmentally sustainable. So that is the second area that they want some collaboration. And then the third area was in capacity building, general capacity building, which will require the training of the skills and things like that. So these are the three main areas that the minister thinks at this point that they need that collaboration. And this is not only Iceland, but they have the World Bank also getting involved in the process. So it is both bilateral and multilateral in one. So these are the major areas that they want. We want them to come in and assist us in trying to improve on our fishing industry. Yes, this mission is, according to them, preliminary of some sort, and that as we speak, they even have somebody there in Accra who started this whole process, and they'll come formally to us later. But for now, they just wanted to find out from us if we are interested in that relationship, and we think it is a good idea. As the senior minister rightly said, 60% of our protein is from fish, and we also have, I think the best tuna producer in the area there, and we need help in trying to get in as much as we can. So it is very necessary to have this type of collaboration with them. They have expertise in the area. That is it's a very small country, but they have been doing fishing for centuries, and they have expertise in the area more than probably we do.
And back home in Ghana, tax consultant Abdallah Ali Nachia is advising the government against reducing corporate taxes as planned, since it could negatively affect revenue generation. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has hinted of government's plans to reduce corporate tax from 25% to 20% in the 2018 budget. But Ali Nachia says government is better off rather than focusing on measures to boost tax compliance among businesses. He spoke with Joy Business at the launch of the 4th edition of the book, Law of Taxation in Ghana.
To be able to improve tax compliance, you would have to educate the people so they know what is required of them. So if you look at our low level of tax compliance, one of the reasons could be attributed to the issue of lack of tax education, but not in all cases. For those who at least know something about their obligations under the tax law, they again need guidance. And so you may have to mix the issue of tax education and tax guidance so that you can address the needs of those who don't know the law and those who know the law but don't know what to do. Once we're able to get everybody to understand what the law requires of him or her and also guide the person as to how to obey and comply with the laws, then we'll get far.
Therefore, calling for a national policy on this very effect.
I think the policies are there. It's the issue of the dissemination of the policies. I've always been wondering why we cannot finance or fund places like the Information Services Division. They have these vans, they have the medium to be able to disseminate to all segments of the economy. You can see that you are doing your part at such programs. You are here, you get it on the air, people see what is going on, hear what is going on. And so we need to look at it in a holistic manner. I think that you are doing your part, and government can do best if it can engage Information Services Department to do a lot of tax education to all and sundry. I believe they have a shortfall in revenue collection, which will impact on government expenditure programs. And so it will not be likely there will be more cuts in taxes at all. I think what they need to do now is to enforce the tax administration, roll out the coverage of the application of the taxes. And then once they increase compliance levels, we can measure to see what the next stage should be. I think our challenge is not so much of broadening the tax net, but rather ensuring that people comply. Because if you look at the statistics that we've been hearing from the tax policy unit of Ministry of Finance, at a point that we had 4.5 million tax-paying population, only 1.5 were paying. So we had a shortfall of 2.5. If we can get these 2.5 to comply, you can imagine we can then double, if not triple, our tax collection.
Our government is being challenged to do more in meeting its funding obligations in climate change support initiatives. Ghana is expected to mobilize about $23 billion over the next 10 years, a little over $6 billion from domestic sources and the remainder from international sources. This is under the initiative dubbed Intended Nationally Determined Contributions, INDCs, which are pledges put forward by various countries to tackle climate change under the Paris Agreement. The UNDP Africa team leader on climate change, Aliou Dia, says private sector participation will be key in meeting the nation's target. He spoke with Joy Business at the ongoing Renewable Energy Fair.
Under the climate change plan developed under the Paris Agreement in December 2015, Ghana needs $22.6 billion in investments to fund actions to mitigate carbon emission. Speaking to Joy Business, UNDP Africa team lead on climate change said private sector participation is key.
And if you read the Ghana's nationally determined contribution, it's talking about mobilizing internal and international financing up to $22 billion to be able to meet the targets of Ghana in the NDC. And that's absolutely important. And part of that money, that money is looking into, renewable energy, promoting renewable energy, into looking into more investment in energy and so on, sustainable energy, so that at least the country can be able to really meet the target and contribute to the 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees that the Paris Agreement is aiming. So it's absolutely important. But, the private sector will have a role to play. Absolutely. That's what we have been discussing yesterday. And the government also will need to put in place, conducive investment environment, so that the private sector will be interested or attracted to support that process going forward.
Project coordinator for China-Ghana South-South Cooperation on Renewable Energy added that the Renewable Energy Master Plan will help with policy implementation.
Government has rolled out a number of policy interventions to support private sector. One key policy intervention is the feed-in tariff, which sought to provide a good incentive for private sector to come into the renewable energy sector. But then government is also looking at a tender process for utility scale solar that will still help to reduce the prices for the average user. But then what we really believe is that most of these policies have been developed. We need to also move to the step of implementation. And that's how come the Renewable Energy Master Plan that has really been proposed is bringing everything together in a coordinated fashion to push some of the interventions that have been proposed already.
Sheila Tamaklo reporting for Joy Business.
Now, ask for directions in Ghana and you are likely to hear something like this, and I quote, "When you turn left, turn to the next junction, turn right and look out for the coconut tree. Behind that coconut tree, ask of Auntie Akusia's house. These and others will soon be a thing of the past." Developers of the National Digital Address System, Vocacom, has now confirmed their readiness to launch the digital addressing system with over 16 billion unique addresses. The addressing system is part of the institutional reforms by government aimed at improving businesses' registration and other business-related activities. Now, on Joy AM Business, of course, Sheila Tamaklo has been looking at the new system and its impact on enhancing businesses.
Addresses, locations, where to find what, and how to show people where to come to. A real big headache for any Ghanaian who has had the unpleasant experience of trying to give or show direction to another.
It's not easy because there's no house number. As at the time we're doing the residential appraisal, there's no house number, and the roads too are not wall for you to just locate. You have to pass through some lungu before you get there. Now the way that Ghana is developing, the next time you go, this thing is there. Another day they have put up another building which is not wall structured, so you find it difficult to locate the place the next time you go there. So it makes it very difficult.
And how often do you miss people because you can't find where they are?
Well, it's like if 2 out of 5.
Close to 8 billion Ghana cedis is the figure that sits in the books of the Bank of Ghana as the amount of non-performing loans in the banking sector, partly blamed on the terrible addressing system we have in Ghana. That's why many banks require the loan applicants to show some credible level of proof of residence. But how do you give this proof when the only noticeable landmark to your house is a lotto kiosk or a certain popular wachi joint, which might not open when the bank decides to find you?
When people even come and open account, per KYC, you're supposed to know where they live. And because there's no address system, you have to draw, you have to do cartography, sketch where they live. So this sometimes people don't even know how to draw. So it's very difficult to even locate exactly what somebody has put on paper. The water bill, for instance, it is difficult for you to know where the location is. They will probably put for example, Fadam. So where in Fadam specifically is the person's house. If you look at electricity bill, the electricity people themselves understand, but we don't understand their mapping. We are not knowledgeable. We don't know. It is not part of what we learned.
Post office boxes have had the long tradition of receiving mails, packages, etc. for individuals. But as technology spikes, there has been a gradual shift to delivery services. Retail and logistic providers have to step up efforts in delivering goods to clients at their doorstep. But how has the poor addressing system in Ghana played out for them?
You want delivery to Kakasunanka?
Yes, please.
Okay. Can you please give me direction to your location? Our dispatch is on its way.
Okay. On that road that goes to Akosombo from the motorway roundabout, you go straight down to after the Michel Camp Barracks. There's a street after the Michel Camp Barracks on your left.
A street on your left after Michel Camp Barracks?
Yeah, after Michel Camp Barracks.
Okay.
You go straight. After the street, you go straight down till you get to the river pole.
Henry is the CEO of Pizzeria, an online food ordering and delivery services.
There was an instance where I went to deliver myself at somewhere around Dome. So when I got to the location the guy gave us, I realized there was a gutter there. And I was using the car to go and deliver. I couldn't cross the gutter. So we called the guy a number of times. He gave us other routes to use, but we couldn't get a location. So like the delivery we were supposed to spend like an hour to do. We ended up delivering the food to the clients after 2 hours. And other experiences where our dispatch guys go out there to deliver, when they get to the location, They will roam around looking for the exact location of the customer. Sometimes the food will get cold. When they finally see the customer will reject the order, which becomes a cost to us.
According to Henry, the poor addressing system does not only affect the quality of services, but it affects their bottom lines.
We did a bit of research in terms of how it affects our bottom line. We realized the last mile of every delivery, either it reaches 50% of the delivery cost or exceeds 50% of the delivery cost. So we end up spending more. So when the month ends and we do our revenue income expenses, we realize we spend more on fuel for the delivery guys. And because they don't use the correct routes, we do a lot of maintenance on the bikes, which is also a cost to us.
In the wake of all these challenges, government is stepping up efforts to develop a robust business economy with a range of technological reforms, including the digital addressing system.
We want to use the existing technology to implement a digital addressing system. So this is the task we set ourselves when we came into government. And that task has thankfully been accomplished. The digital addressing system is going to provide, for me, if I look at it and I'm biased, of course, it's going to provide us the most advanced addressing system in the world, period. This is what we are about to roll out. And it is more advanced, of course, than the United States or United Kingdom or Sweden or Germany, because they are stuck with old technology. We are leapfrogging, and we are going to new technology. We are going to GPS-based technology. So even if you are standing in the middle of the river Oti and you want your address, when we roll it out, you will know your address in the middle of the river Oti.
The project, which will cost the country $2.5 million, is expected to provide a unique address for every inch of the country. According to developers of the system, Vocacom, about 16.1 billion addresses are ready to be deployed.
These addresses will be addresses that will lead to your house or your workplace. So no more PO boxes leading to just post offices. These are leading directly to where you live. Now, for all of Ghana, we have codified the entire nation into a grid of 5 meters by 5 meters squared across the whole nation, every square inch of the nation. In total, we have generated 16.1 billion unique addresses and given each one of these 16.1 billion a digital address. So wherever you are, we have written software to be able to find every space, every space in this country has been codified and addressed. And so it doesn't matter where you are, we will be able to find you. Now, because this is digital, that's why we are calling it digital, it has been integrated with the online space. And so when you give your address, people can actually use the application to find you.
The system is currently known as the Asase GPS and can be accessed as an app on your phone or via the Asase GPS web address. However, it will subsequently be operated by Ghana Post under the name Ghana Post GPS. The system is expected to change the business environment.
The benefits are enormous. To start off with, if you try to open a bank account, they have what they call the KYC. And what they do is they give you a piece of paper and they turn you into an architect where you start drawing where you live. It's here and then the runabout. Sometimes you get the cocoa cell and the blue kiosk things all coming in. This is very, very troubling. And all I am interested in is to have a bank account. Why might I become an architect just so I can have a bank account? So immediately this problem goes away. Beyond that, Ghana Post, they are the biggest owners of this and they are the biggest users of this as well. Now, no more going to post office to post letter and receive letter at the post office. Your letters will come home. Imagine it. Ghana Post will come to you, put stuff to your house. When your letters are coming, the Ghana Postman is coming in and bringing them to your house. Imagine it. everything is coming to your house. It's unbelievable. The kind of transformation that this is bringing in, the kind of change that Ghana Post is bringing to the lives in Ghana is unbelievable.
For the non-tech savvy, there will be physical addresses on walls and buildings to help with identification. For the business community, though, the arrival of the digital addressing system is long overdue.
We are more than desperate for such a system. Like I said, it's affecting our bottom line. And if we have such a system in place, it's going to save us costs. It's very key. The cost component is very key because you realize fuel is very expensive. So if because you're getting wrong addresses and you are spending more on fuel, as a businessman, you would want to find a way to decrease your cost. So what do? You look for exact addressing system.
It will be so simple and so easy, like the advanced countries. When you just give them your card, your identification card. And now I'm told that they are also going to do the identification system that is coming, is going to supersede all the ID cards that we have. And thus, immediately you put, for example, my name, Charlotte Bedu, you should be able to give you everything about me, whether I pay my electricity bill, whether I pay my water bill, whether I'm indebted to a company or not. All these things will come up, and it will really, really help us, even for the credit references.
And that report was by Sheila Tamaklo. Now, moving on, UBA Ghana's CEO Abiola Bewia has advised business owners and heads of institutions to establish a strong connection with their workers. According to her, this tends to ensure that employees remain efficient, even in the absence of supervisors. Speaking on Joy News' flagship leadership show, The Executive Lounge, UBA boss Abiola Bewia pointed out that employees should prioritize their staff in order to get the best out of them.
The results will come by the people. So I learned, maybe in my earlier stages in life, I was very transactional. But now, no. I've attended quite a number of leadership courses. Thank God for the executive and board of UBA. I've done quite a number. And I realized that when I focus on the people, when I focus on the people, and I show interest in the people, and they connect to my vision, whilst I'm sleeping, they are working. But when I focus on the numbers alone and leave the people, do you understand? It gets to a point, you can't fire everybody. So they're okay, go ahead, and the job is not done. So it's good for me to connect with the people. So I do everything you can think of. There is no birthday that comes to my notice that I won't at least give you something small, send you a very nice message. When anything that affects their home affects me, because they need to be happy. And most of the time, I take the bullet for them. So they've come to see that the MD is there for us. Oh, as for MD, you can always run to. And when I believe in something, whatever you want to push, if I'm not backing you, it means I don't understand. So teach me and let me understand. Once I understand, I will throw my weight behind you and we go pushing. So that, I think, has worked. The people first before the figures. It has really worked for me.
Watch the full version of this interview with Abiola Bewia on Multi TV and DSTV channel 421 on Saturday 6 p.m. with a repeat on Sunday 8 p.m. And on that note, we draw the curtain on this afternoon's program. Many thanks for your company and, of course, for keeping faith with me throughout the week. My name is Emmanuel Abwaji. Have a great weekend and let's catch up again on Monday.